To my complete and utter surprise, my very own home state of Illinois is home to one of the most beloved and popular desserts here in America and honestly probably the Western world. That's right, the humble and always delicious brownie was invented right here in good old Illinois. It's pronounced Illinois, by the way, not Illinois. The highly acclaimed, devilishly sweet morsel has a history that definitely surprised me, and I think it's going to surprise you too. Welcome back to Cooking the States, a series where we cook a famous dish from a different state in every episode in an attempt to better understand the true identity of American food. Like many states that house large American cities, Illinois is a lot different in the country than it is in its northeasternmost part that houses the city of Chicago. It was back in the late 1800s that the World's Fair came to the city, bringing with it massive crowds of people from all over the planet. The 1893 World's Fair lasted for nearly half a year, and we can thank it for the invention of Ferris wheels, cotton candy, and a series of famous grisly murders. Is there any literature I can grab with this? Just kidding, don't thank it for that one. And
why do these ones have yellow bands?
They're tiered.
Oh, cheers.
A tier, B tier. That's right, the ever-popular brownie was invented right here in Chicago. Living so close to the Palmer house, I had to drive over to the hotel to try it from the source. It looks like a really thin layer of glaze. I thought it was going to be a thicker layer, but it's like you put the walnuts in, then you just glaze over the top. It looks pretty moist. Very moist. Alright, I think I know what must be done. So the OG Palmer House brownie is good and fine. It's a pretty old recipe. It's definitely like Gen 1 of brownie, right? Always gonna be delicious, but there is room for improvement. So I'm gonna put my own spin on this classic. However, if you wanna check out the OG recipe from the late 1800s, you can pause the video and peep that right here. Start by preheating the oven to 350 Fahrenheit, then sift the dry ingredients together. That's 170 grams of bread flour and 50 grams of cacao powder. Jiggle those two into a mixing bowl, then set it aside. Alright, that's one chocolatey component. The next will be a mixture of 250 grams dark chocolate, 150 grams milk chocolate, and 260 grams or a stick and a quarter of unsalted butter. Set up a double boiler by adding enough water to tickle the bum of the glass bowl that you situate on top. Bring that water up to a simmer and gently stir as the butter melts into the chocolate, forming a wonderful partnership. Once melted, keep the chocolate mixture on the double burner and set it aside to keep warm. Moving on, we're going to make our brownie base by adding our 4 whole eggs into the bowl of a stand mixer. Attach the whisk attachment and let it run on medium speed until the eggs are frothy and seem to have air beaten into them. They should also be a little lighter in color. Once that happens, turn the mixer off. Now, I personally am a man of a fudgy brownie. I'm partial to the brownie that leaves a clean teeth mark when bitten into. To achieve said chonk levels, we need to hydrate sugar fully in some agua. To a medium, slightly wide pot, add 670 grams of cane sugar, then pour 250 grams of room temp water on top. We need to take the temperature of this sugar to what's called the firm ball stage, which means that it forms a hard ball when dropped into cold water. Hydrating the sugar to this stage will lend our brownies a uniquely fudgy texture. Set the heat to low-medium and let the mixture come up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. This might take some time, so be patient. Once the sugar is ready, turn the stand mixer back on to medium-high speed. Slowly stream in the liquefied sugar into the stand mixer as it runs until it's all incorporated, then turn the speed up to high. We're going to whip these eggs for 10 minutes until they lighten in color. You want to work with high speeds here because if your stand mixer is too slow, you could run the risk of cooking the eggs, which is no bueno. Nobody likes chunks of scrambled eggs in their brownie, and if you do, maybe go see somebody. Remove the bowl from the machine and pour in our melted chocolate mixture that we made earlier, followed by a dash of vanilla extract and a pinch of kosher salt. Pop the bowl of the mixer back on and process on medium speed until a smooth, richly brown batter comes together. After about a minute of mixing, once everything is uniformly brown in color, go ahead and remove that bowl once more and add in our dry mixture, which is the sifted flour and cacao powder. You don't need to mix too much more. You'll know when you're done when these beautiful, glorious brownie fudge ribbons basically start to form. Fudge ribbons. It's a thing. Then, prepare a 9x13 inch baking dish or something similar by nestling in some parchment paper. I like to use a bit of oil to help the parchment stick to the baking dish, then cut the corners of the parchment itself for a snugger fit. Drizzle a little more oil onto the parchment paper itself, then let that batter stream in. Smooth the batter out evenly with a rubber spatula, then top the whole thing with coarsely chopped walnuts. And there are no need to toast these boys, they're gonna get plenty toasty in the oven. At this point, the oven has been preheated and has been charging with heat for a while, which is exactly what we need. So just place the whole thing on the middle rack of your preheated oven and bake for 50 minutes. While that bakes, we're going to make an apricot preserve to then turn into an apricot glaze, which of course starts with fresh apricots. Slice down the apricot, working your knife around the pit just like you would any other stone fruit like peach or avocado. Then slice each apricot half into quarters. There's really no need to worry about the skin here, it's super delicate and is basically undetectable in this application. To a large Dutch oven over medium heat, add in the 2 pounds of apricot and coat with 1 cup of sugar. Once coated, stir in the juice of half a lemon and a half a cup of water. Let the apricots cook down on medium-low heat for 30 to 45 minutes. As the mixture cooks, foam is going to come to the top. Just go ahead and skim that off and continue cooking until it's thickened. To test for viscosity, you can do what's called the plate test. Basically, let a plate chill down in the freezer for 10 to 15 minutes until it's very cold. Then spoon on some of your preserves right smack dab in the middle of that plate and tip it downwards. If the preserves gloop down the plate without dripping off, then you're good to go. If the mixture drips off cleanly, then it's too thin and it needs more time on the heat. Season with a small pinch of salt, and do not add as much as me, that was way too much salt. A small pinch will do. Let it all cool down slightly, then set aside a cup, then store the rest in the fridge to use another time. This recipe makes a ton of preserves. You will have extra, but if you're gonna put the time in, why not make a batch of it? Okay, now that we have our preserves, we can make the apricot glaze topper for our brownies. Add the cup of preserves that you set aside earlier to a blender, along with 1 cup of quality H2O. Blend that up until a smooth, bright orange puree forms. Then pour the mixture into a small saucepan, sprinkling on a teaspoon of powdered gelatin. While whisking, bring everything back up to a simmer and cook for 2 minutes, then remove from the heat and set it aside. If you want to, these preserves can also be made ahead of time. By now, the brownies should be finished cooking. Remove them from the oven, then immediately brush on enough apricot glaze to coat the walnuts on top. You're probably not going to want to use all of the glaze, and if you do, things might get a little runny, but do as your heart desires. I used about half. As the whole lot cools, the glaze will sink into the brownies and lose much of its bright color. Don't worry, this is totally normal, it still tastes great. Once the brownies cool down completely, slice them into squares and admire the chunk. Our brownies compared to the Palmer house in this shot here. As you'll notice, ours are a lot darker and richer in color. It's also a lot fudgier in texture. The Palmer house brownies have a nice sheen to it, probably because they used more gelatin in the glaze. All in all, both look fantastic, both taste fantastic, but if you're asking me, I prefer our fudgy variety. Then there's nothing else to do but consume your hard work. All in all, our version of the Palmer house brownie is a lot richer, fudgier, exactly sort of what I want when I think of a brownie. So don't forget the vanilla ice cream, it is not optional, and yeah, you're pretty much gonna be in biz. Hope you guys liked that one. The World's Fair, crazy, so much stuff was invented, so much stuff happened. Devil in the White City, what up? Super disturbing, Google it. Next episode, we are heading down southeast to Indiana, right, a bordering state of Illinois. If you think you know what we're gonna make for Michael Jackson's home state, why don't you comment that below in the comments where you would comment something like that. And until next time.